Hello friends, welcome to my channel The Storyteller. Grab the popcorn and soda and the story will start in 3, 2, 1. Fernando Souza, a Mexican millionaire, lost his wallet full of money in a poor neighborhood while traveling with his daughter. When a street urchin found it and returned it intact, he asked for something unusual as a reward, which made the experienced millionaire and his daughter burst into tears. Fernando Souza was on a ferry, returning from a tourist trip to the city of San Diego, California, when he realized that his wallet was no longer in his pants pocket. The man was a millionaire who had even been the subject of Forbes years before, because in addition to being part of the elite of the super rich in Mexico, Fernando Souza was better known as a philanthropist. Since the 1990s, he has invested in large retail chains, while raising large amounts of money to bring food, clothing and medical care to people in his country and Latin America who are experiencing difficulties. That day, the millionaire was at a tourist attraction on the west coast of the United States, accompanied by his daughter, Elizabeth Souza, who had just turned 18. The girl had already traveled to that country with her father a few times, but she had never spent enough time there to know everything she wanted to. When she reached the age of majority, she asked that the celebration be held in the United States. Her father then took a week off to accompany her. The philanthropist called one of his friends, who was the manager of a chain of luxury hotels in California, and explained the situation. The man organized the entire trip for the businessman and Elizabeth, as if it were for his own daughter. Father and daughter had been in the United States for 3 days. They had seen Disney, passed through Los Angeles, and now they were in San Diego, where they had just visited Coronado Island and still wanted to see the zoo or water park the next day. Despite being a valued destination in that region, Coronado had a poor neighborhood with a large Mexican community, and Fernando wanted to get to know its streets and people. Elizabeth was not happy that her father included the visit to the site on her birthday. After all, she had no interest in poor neighborhoods in the United States. But the young woman put up with it so as not to make a fuss. It was summer and the boat was full of tourists. Father and daughter had already done one of the routes and were returning to the city. It was when the boat was already close to the port that Fernando looked in his pocket for his wallet and did not find it. He searched other pockets, asked if his daughter had seen it, and looked around. Elizabeth asked if it had been a while since he had used his wallet, and Fernando said he had only used his money on the island when he visited the poor neighborhood and bought a souvenir from the place. She knew. "I told you not to go there, Dad." "Of course you were robbed," Elizabeth protested. Fernando corrected his daughter, as he didn't know if it had really been stolen. He said that he himself may have lost his wallet somewhere, including on that boat full of tourists from all over the world. Elizabeth then replied, "Look at the people around us, they would certainly have returned it by now if they had found it, don't you think?" Fernando said only that he hoped that whoever took or found his wallet would get in touch and return it. Elizabeth didn't know it, but soon it would have a serious impact on her life. More than 2 hours later, back at the hotel, Fernando Souza has not received a call from anyone who has found his wallet. The tour boat staff also looked everywhere and found nothing. They were apprehensive, as the millionaire could even sue the transport company. But no one showed more concern than Elizabeth Souza, the daughter of that powerful lord. She knew that in addition to cash, there were several credit cards in her father's wallet, which were absolutely necessary for his long-awaited birthday celebration. Nervous, Elizabeth said that her father had certainly been stolen while they were on the island. "Don't you realize that these people use Mr. Father? You went to that poor neighborhood with such goodwill that they ended up making a fool of you," she said, irritated. "And on my birthday you took me just to a periphery. Look what we got out of it." Fernando took a deep breath and said that he loved Elizabeth, but that she had to learn more about life. She was coming of age, but she still had a lot to live for. Do you think life has been good and easy for me forever? I've been to the other side, girl, said the philanthropist. Fernando reminded her that he himself had been born in a poor neighborhood in Mexico City. His mother was a cook and his father a tailor. At the age of 14, Fernando started working at a department store in the capital to help with household expenses. He was only able to study what he wanted when he was already 24 years old, at which time he had a supervisory position at the store. He told his daughter that he had to swallow a lot of frogs from bosses and clients to get to that position, that he had taken a lot of buses in his life to be able to go to work every day, and sometimes he couldn't even eat breakfast. Other times he had to skip lunch. But things had worked out for him in the end. I was lucky, you know. Luck can also change a life, my daughter, he said. He remembered when he met his wife, Elizabeth's mother, at the end of college. And how she died of cancer. Although he was already a very wealthy man, nothing money could buy was enough to save his wife from illness. It was a hard blow to his life. But it was also a reminder that he should remain humble. And it was after this sad episode, when Elizabeth was only 3 years old, that Fernando also became known as a philanthropist. Although plans to celebrate the anniversary had been derailed, at least he and Elizabeth could be safe in the comfort of a 5-star hotel that had already been paid for a month earlier. A privilege for few people in this world, he remembered. The daughter listened in silence. The next day, the millionaire's phone rang. It was a number he didn't know. When he answered, the person on the other end of the line said he had his wallet and gave him an address that was a little way out of the tourist area. Seeing her father get up with a smile on his face, Elizabeth protested. Dad, think about it. It could be a scam or a trap. Who says they even found your wallet? Fernando replied that there would be no problem. The caller had a child's voice and sounded trustworthy. Elizabeth then called the security guard who escorted him whenever necessary and explained what was happening. The security guard showed up at Elizabeth's room and tried to make Fernando give up going to that address. But Fernando simply replies that he would trust his intuition and grab his wallet to continue with the celebrations that trip promised. And so, the three left the luxury hotel and headed towards the nearby avenue. As the security guard drove down the avenue, they left the tourist area and arrived in another neighborhood, much more modest and less lit. Elizabeth was scared. Her birthday had turned into a dangerous adventure. Every motorbike that passed their car made her heart race. If they stopped at a traffic light, then, she would become tense and immobile, looking at the vehicles around her as if she expected a hand to point a gun at them. Having a bodyguard along didn't make the girl feel any more reassured or protected. That place was very strange. Fernando, on the other hand, did not feel any fear. Somehow, that place reminded him of his youth. Elizabeth didn't understand how her father could be so relaxed. After all, it wasn't just his safety that was at stake, but hers as well. Finally, they arrived at the indicated place, in a region full of very simple houses. The security guard did not let Fernando get out of the car. He clapped his hands and indeed a child appeared. He had the man's wallet in his small hands. He waited at the gate while the security guard took the item to the philanthropist. Fernando soon saw that it was his wallet. And when he opened it, he saw that all his documents, cards and money were still there. Not a penny was missing. The boy must have been at most 13 years old. He was skinny, with lively eyes and plain clothes that didn't look very new. Certainly, his situation wasn't much better than Fernando's when he was that age. The millionaire then got out of the car, along with his daughter, and thanked the boy for returning his wallet. "Boy, you saved me a lot of headaches." "Thank you," he said. The boy took advantage of that well-dressed man's friendliness and asked if he could give him $2. Upon hearing this, Elizabeth began to laugh nervously. "Oh, are you selling?" "I did not say." "Good thing we brought security," she said. "What's the matter, daughter?" Fernando asked. "Give him all the money right away before his cronies show up, Dad. Let's get out of here." The boy was embarrassed by Elizabeth's reaction and explained. "It's nothing like that, sir. I just don't have a phone. So I had to use the only money I had to call the gentleman from a public phone. I spent the night and yesterday asking on the street, but I didn't get anything. So, I used the money I was saving to buy my sister a cupcake. Tomorrow is her birthday." Fernando was interested in the boy's story and asked him to tell more to Elizabeth's complete horror. The boy then said that his name was Paul and that he doesn't remember very well his past and what he had experienced in his early life. He hadn't known his father and had been living with his mother and sister on the streets for over a year. A few blocks away there was a space where several homeless people gathered to spend the night, and that's where what was left of his family was. Paul said that when they still lived in a small apartment, he remembered having his birthday and the cake his mother made to celebrate. It had been the only party the boy had ever had. The cake was small and there was only the mother and little sister to sing happy birthday. But that was the happiest memory of his life. And now, even though they'd been evicted, he wanted to make sure his sister felt the same happiness. So Paul was begging for money on the street to try to buy his sister a cake. Elizabeth cannot contain her tears and takes her hands to her chest. The girl, who until recently was scared of that place and suspicious of the boy's intentions, now felt ashamed for having made such hasty judgments. To complete, Paul's sister had the same birthday as her. Surprising everyone, Elizabeth handed Paul a card from the luxury hotel she was staying at, telling him, his mother and sister to go there the next day. She asked her father's permission and opened his wallet, taking out 3 $100 bills, handing them to the boy. "Paul, use this money to buy clothes for you and your family, okay? Otherwise, unfortunately, you might not even make it to the hotel reception," she said. Then everyone said goodbye. On the way back, Fernando Souza asked the security guard to take them to the restaurant he had reserved for Elizabeth's birthday celebration. But she stops him and asks them to go straight back to the hotel. "What happened, daughter?" The millionaire wanted to know. "Dad, what would we spend on one night in this place enough to feed Paul's family for a month? Let's just go back to the hotel and we'll order a pizza while we plan what to do tomorrow, okay?" Fernando nodded. He turned and looked proudly at his daughter. His years as a philanthropist seemed to have finally had some positive effect on his daughter. The next day, early, Paul, his sister Cindy and their mother managed to go to a clothing store. They left with brand new clothes and feeling great. The money Elizabeth had given them was enough not only for clothes, but also for breakfast that they hadn't had for over a year. It was also enough to pay for the bus tickets to the hotel and still have some leftovers. When they arrived at the place and realized that it was a 5-star hotel, they became shy. Paul's mother always dreamed of visiting a place like that, and now that she was there, she didn't know how to act. Upon entering the hotel, a receptionist directed the family to a garden with green lawn and a table with flowers and colorful decorations. Paul's sister said it was the most beautiful place she had ever seen. Her eyes sparkled. Elizabeth appeared and said that it was everything for her, and the girl could not contain her happiness. Fernando had asked the friend who supervised the hotel chain to invite all the families staying with children to a birthday party. And indeed, many of them came to the garden, running and playing with Cindy and Paul. Elizabeth was as happy as the children. For the first time, she understood how her father felt about helping people. Paul and Cindy tasted brownie for the first time and ate a huge chocolate cake. Maria, Cindy, and Paul's mother, was thrilled with all that and got a hug from Elizabeth, who was also trying to hold back tears on her first day at 18 years old. Fernando knew that a birthday party would not be enough to help that family. So he took Mary, Mother Paul, to his hotel supervisor friend. The millionaire explained that he was very surprised to see that her son had returned the wallet in the same condition in which it was found, despite the difficulty in which he and his family lived. And that if the son had a nature like that, that could only be a reflection of a good upbringing. "My congratulations on your integrity," he said. And Mary was grateful. The hotel supervisor then said that maybe he could help her. "I recently discovered that my head maid was involved in a petty theft scheme within the hotel. She and 2 employees would steal items from our foreign guests and they wouldn't realize it until they returned to their countries," the supervisor said, leaving Maria confused. Then the man explained that when they identified those involved, they fired everyone. And now they needed to renew the team that should be led by a person of integrity and a lot of trust. "I don't know if it was just luck or something else, Dona Maria. But when her son returned that wallet intact, he altered the fate of his entire family. If you want, I'd like the position of head chambermaid to be hers." "What do you tell me?" said the supervisor. Maria's mouth dropped open. "I had never dreamed that one day I would set foot in a hotel like that." And now she was seeing not only a party for her daughter, but also being offered a job. Embarrassed, she said she didn't know if she would have the competence for the job. And the supervisor promptly responded, "Well, Miss Maria, the most important thing you already have is character and integrity." The following week, the life of that family dawned differently. Paul and Cindy took a bus to school. They had new clothes and school supplies. Maria took a bus to the edge of town, where she entered the 5-star hotel to start her new job. She felt like the luckiest woman in the world. Fernando and Elizabeth continued the trip they had planned. However, nothing else provided the same happiness that Elizabeth had felt during the party in the hotel's garden. She looked at her father. And finally, she realized why he was never content with just being a millionaire. What made him really fulfilled was doing good for others. Now, she understood that. If you liked this exciting story, please leave a like. And this other video that is appearing on the screen right now, will probably move you too. Good session, and until the next video.